City girls just seem to find out early how to open doors with just a smile. All right. Good morning, my dogs. Hopefully everyone's feeling well. It is 6:32. It's Monday, just like that, July 13th. We're in the third quarter, middle summer. Hopefully you're enjoying yourself. If you are not on the beach or in the mountains, you better be at your desk with multiple plans. The market's still moving pretty fluid. A lot of things going on. A lot of setups. Some decent action, depending where you look. Right here, though, as far as the SPYs are concerned, remember we came in last week. I'm like, would we hold 740? Well, we held 739.50, and then we took out 745 and held it, and lo and behold, 3 days later, 755. Pretty healthy action. A little volatility in the semis, obviously. You look overseas, the Kospi's down 8.9%. They're full of semis. Whenever you get a huge IPO, sometimes it creates a little bit of a sellable event because of all the anticipation, which we know. So we're going to see what this week brings. Anyway, the only way you're going to make some money is if you have multiple plans and you're prepared with levels and you're thinking clearly. That's why we just did the 25-20. Just got a nice sweat out, listened to some music with a few hundred of my friends around the world. And now here we are in the 630 Club. My name is Scott Redler. I'm the Chief Strategic Officer of T3 Live and a founding partner. I am also the founder of Red Dog Mindset. Hopefully, you're feeling good. You're having a good July so far, and we'll see what today brings. At this point, let me say hello to some of my dogs. What up, Tim? Good morning, Sammy. What up, Sal's? Vincent. Good morning, Ken. Here we are. If you look right now at the SPYs, not the biggest deal in the world, only down 220. So that's 752. If you look here, the low from Friday was 748. So there we are, still trending. I'd say some people are like, well, is volatility going to hit? I'm like, well, in order for volatility to really hit, you probably got to get below 748 first. And that's a little bit below where we are, a lot of it, so at this point in stride. So don't be, obsessing over the Mideast headlines and all those kind of things that everyone obsesses about all weekend long. So again, sometimes you frame the trade as long as 748 holds. You would think there's some commitment to this pattern. At some point, maybe even take out highs. The Qs. Remember the red dog reversal right here? Look at that support, the 50, the MA, the moving average that held all the way since friggin' April. So if you adjusted when it went below 704.90 and reclaimed it, that was a nice little red dog reversal to get long, get some more risk exposure. That's who won the battle there, the active bulls. And then you had a gap up. So if you want to say, hey, as long as we hold 715, can't get too bearish on the Qs either. So anyway, both are starting a little bit in the red. If you're over hedged, cover some hedges, and then we'll see, where the money flows. As far as the semis, they've been kind of choppy. I think they're in a rebuild stage. Some people are like, well, do you think the highs are in MU and SanDisk, for 2026? I'm like, let's just go day by day, week by week. MU put a low in at 955 or 954, which was on Friday. You had the low from last week, which is 890s. Right now we're at 925. So what do you know? We're below 955. Do we stay below it or reclaim it? And we're above 891. So some people are like, hey, Red Dog, is this going to be a head and shoulders top pattern where you have the left shoulder, the head? Is this a right shoulder, and is this the neckline? Could be. It's building. We'll see. Got a lot of trades between now and then. Sometimes these patterns don't even ever trigger. They just consolidate and rebuild, and then neckline turns into a really good buyable spot. Or sometimes it breaks, and then it triggers, and then you get a measured move of 250 points, which would take us all the way a lot lower. That would mean a lot of pressure on the semis. But for now, what I might do is, I have a little mull on. I only have like 20% of what we made in that move. I told you guys on Thursday to be a seller into 1035. So hopefully you did sell a big portion, and now we'll see. As far as Nvidia was probably my best trade last week. Nvidia showed, remember when it showed relative strength that day on July 7th? It's good to see relative strength. Well, it showed a lot of it on that day, and then we opened lower. You could have bought in the hole. Then it took out 201, went to 205, and then if you remember, I tweeted to the public, I'm like, guys, if you missed the 2-day move in Nvidia, you could buy some here. I put it on as a power play in Nvidia, and I think a day later, my guys made over 50%, and I usually take over third. Whenever you make 50% or 100%, you take over third. And anyway, you could have bought it versus the 199, took out 205, and it hit a high of 211. So that was a really nice sequence. So people are like, is it going to continue? Is Nvidia back? Well, I think today, if it holds kind of like it held in here, 199, if it could hold 205-ish, I would assume that, hey, Nvidia's going to keep this active sequence. Nvidia didn't have the move that Micron and SanDisk and some of them had. It was in consolidation mode. So it could be something. So we'll see. So if you got long a lot and sold and got down to the last third, that's what I did. I got down to my last third using a tier system. I can now buy some back, and hopefully it holds this 205 and continues. That would be nice. And maybe you can even roll some options. If you bought the 210s in the hole and sold a lot of 210s, maybe into here, you go out and you buy some 215s. And that's what you call rolling up options. Apple looks pretty damn good too. Apple looks like it's going to be taking out this 317 area and could see 320-ish sooner than we thought. Into this move, I'm like, you guys could be buying the 320 calls and probably pay yourself nicely, or the stock. Remember when it woke up above 289? Are we stuck here? Let me say good morning. I don't see anyone typing. Good. Or is everyone just listening? Let's see. I'm going to type in here, you guys, to see if we could see. Are your comments scrolling? Oh, there they are. Oh my God. All right. Anyway, I didn't see the scrolls. What's shaking, Gary? Someone asked me if I could look at Ford. Let's look at Ford. Yeah, Ford gave you a little day one. Look at that. Nice little day one. Maybe they come for some value because they're not really coming for Tesla. There you go. So Ford looks decent. It was as high as 17. Probably not a bad idea. Someone said, what about SpaceX? SpaceX has been horrible. So I told you guys when it couldn't get added to, when it couldn't get, when it couldn't bounce or rally when it was getting added to the NASDAQ 100, and then every one of those Fugazi wirehouse analysts gave it a 300, a 320, whatever, and it couldn't go. That right there was a red flag saying, hey, you better be careful with the SpaceX. There's always a time and place. The first 3 days were awesome. Remember, we were buying it at like, I think 152. I sold it at 211, and then it broke this 186, and that's when it changed. That's when it didn't hold the top third, and you had to say, hey, let me take a step back. I don't care that it's SpaceX. I don't care that, whatever. And PS, it's been working lower. I don't know. Chances are it's below 145. If it doesn't reclaim this 145 today, at some point we're going to be buying it with those guys who've probably already flipped it at 135, which is the IPO price. And because this is so weak, it's dragging down names like ASTS and Rocket Labs, and we'll see. Does ASTS want to hold this big spot? It hasn't been special for a while. This was the last time it had a little special sequence. Then it did it again. Now it's trying. What's this low here? This is 7130. It's trying to rebuild. There's supposed to be another launch soon. Look out for that. Maybe it helps. But overall, I've been shorting puts and being very careful here. It's not the same, ASTS that it's been. Rock Labs also. Rock Labs is struggling here at the 200-day. Not here. Remember when it ignited above the 8-day, gave you a big move from like 85 to 151, and then right here at 134 is when it broke day in 21-day, and that's when something goes from awesome to be careful, and then it proved that it couldn't rally at all. And now if it breaks this 80, I don't know. I wouldn't sell puts this time, so we'll see. So again, some of these space names are going through a rebuild. Poet's not great either. I have some Poet on. If it breaks 811, I bought it right around here, from 20 down. A lot of these names have been all battered and bruised. I saw that Citadel bought 5%. So I'm like, let me buy a little bit here. I made a lot of money during this move. So I have the luxury of buying a little bit down here. It's not a hyper focus. These names are not where the action is right now. It just is what it is. Rigetti, probably the same thing. I would think quantum names aren't great. All trending down. Yes. Look at this. Look at this red dog reversal outside day right there, where if you were playing for a breakout of a bull flag, well, this day said, and now it's coming back and there's no interest. Sometimes these things are awesome. Like, look here, this one, you had the bull flag and it continued. Here, bull flag, fake out. You're getting a lot of that. So summertime, you want to be a little careful. You want to be a lot more selective versus spread out. Anyway, so we'll see. Somebody asked me about Warby Parker. It's building a nice channel, a little different, consumers, whatever you want to call this name. Anyway, hanging up here. If they like these kind of names, maybe this one can continue to the upside. Someone asked me about Robinhood. Robinhood was a little tricky last week. Gave us a really nice move. Then I remember I was at my son's tournament. I was in where was I? I was in King of Prussia. Anyway, I was in the gym and at Lifetime writing my note, trading, and Robinhood was up $3. I'm like, oh, look at that. Robinhood's up $3. I have a lot of it. And then all of a sudden I turned around, it was down $3. I'm like, okay, that kind of sucked. That happens. Anyway, 108 is right here. I would say realistically, this is a spot that needs to hold the 21-day, which is closer to 104. What's it doing today? It is down $1, not horrible. So this is one spot. So again, we're going to measure the action today because it might get a little volatile. Remember last week, Meta was my best play. I haven't had a great week in Meta in like 9 months. And finally, it paid us with our options a lot. Like if you remember, we were in here. This day happened and we were buying the 630 calls into that down move because I'm like, someone came in and bought the hell out of it. And anyway, so it was a lot easier to be in options in the stock because the stock was hairy. It just the way it traded. And then if you remember, I'm like, hey guys, you could buy it versus 580. If you use the red dog reversal technique here, it went below 580, went to 577. You could have even bought the stock that day and gave you a huge move. I just stayed with my options, which I was very happy about. Went to 677. So now what? See if Meta holds 658 and goes sideways and holds this gap. Held this gap decently, so we'll see. We'll see if maybe Amazon gets a little better. Amazon's been kind of shitty, excuse my French. But if they can come after Meta, maybe Amazon's going to take a page from their book and come out with some kind of news or something. Yeah, Vincent said Meta was a great trade last week. It really was. It helped a lot. Thoughts on Life? Allison, I'll take a look at Life for you. I don't even know what that is. Oh, Life. Looks like probably was some kind of deal name that showed that it had some power. And now it woke up here on this day. This is what you call bullish engulfing bar. Now it's above the moving averages. Yeah, this looks decent for whatever this is. I don't even know what this is, but looks like I would be long this verse 18. So if you want to say, hey, here's a new name, maybe there's some coverage, maybe it acts well, I would be long verse 18 and then see if it wants to get above this bull type flag. What's it doing this morning? Life. Gotta enjoy life, my doggies. Not doing much, but yeah, decent. New name, it's insurance. All right. Any opinion on AMPX? Frank is asking me. AMPX looks pretty crappy. Looks like it's below all the moving averages, not doing a whole hell of a lot. Probably turned into a momentum trade into a bad hold if you didn't get out of it. I remember here, some people liked it. What's it doing this morning? Somebody said, I don't know. AMPX looks like every one of these momentum names that lost the moving averages where you had to get out or turn it into a bad investment or long-term. Sometimes a good trade turns into a long-term investment. Tesla, I haven't really been looking at Tesla that much. I would say, see if Tesla wants to hold 402-ish and get a little bit better, 402-ish. Where is it now? Tesla is still above that. So maybe there's an opportunity this morning to be a buyer of Tesla versus 402-ish. I am not in Tesla. I'm not in SpaceX. These names are broken. They're not special whatsoever. So maybe today you could be a buyer of Tesla versus 402 for cash flow. I'll look at it. Sometimes it likes to go green in the sea of red, and when spies are down too, it makes some sense. RDW is probably one of those shitty names also, Sam, that people go back to, then go back to the well. Yep. Had a big move and then broke right here. Some of you guys got to learn some tactics, learn some moving averages. When things break day and 21 day, you get out of the way. If I had $1 for every time someone asked me to look at ONDS, look at ONDS, look at ONDS. Well, ONDS is not doing so well. It's below everything. Tried to go here and failed. Went back in the base and went even lower. This stock could work its way back to here if it wants to. I'm just saying, like, realize when things change. Okay, and it's been rejected every single time into the 8-day. Anyway, with that being said, use your moving average rules. Soxel, okay. We'll see what today brings. The semis are going to be a little source of volatility. You have the Kospi down 8.9%. You have it a 2-month low. It's full of semis. So the low from Friday was 175. This low is 150. So we'll see what did the semis bring today. SOXL is only down 16. That's not horrible. It's above 175. I might sell some 150 puts for this week, to not be perfect. Like I said before, see what MU does. Does MU want to hold, reclaim 955? Does it want to hold 890? A lot of us made good money selling puts into the 50-day. You probably don't want to see the 50-day again. You just don't. And that's MU's right here. It's at 925 in no man's land. So it's below 955, above 891. See how that goes. What's NVIDIA one more time? Down 320. Again, if NVIDIA is going to continue to act very well, like it did last week, where you had a 2-day move and then it held 199 and then took out 205, I would think it's going to hold 205. If it doesn't hold 205 and gives back more than half of that candle, you'll have to be a little bit more careful in the video. Anyway, it's 6:48. It's a new week. I hope everyone's feeling well. I have to take off today at 11:30. Today is the Stephen M. Perez golf outing that I've been going to. This is the 23rd year. Holy cow, I'm getting old. That means Stephen's passed away 23 years ago, leukemia. He was 29 years old, never made it to 30. We've been doing a golf outing for him for almost 23 years. Wow. What we do, we raise money to send kids to college and camp because that's what Stephen loved. So I will get to see a lot of old school friends that I haven't seen in a while. I will trade the open. I will manage my stuff, and then I will be on the road to Long Island for a great day, kind of celebrating his life. So just know that if you're having a little tricky time, it could be a lot worse. Every day above ground's a good day, my dogs. Myron, Scott, the faded chat looks great. I'd work even better under your camera instead over the chart. Okay. Do you see that, Conrad? We're getting a little suggestions on how to make this look better. Yeah, I guess. All right. Well, thank you, sir. DRAM is a praise. You guys are also asking questions about all the same stuff. Soxel, you could trade that. You could trade MU. You could trade NVIDIA. Trade the SMHs, probably the same thing. It's just not as fast. Anyway, with that being said, yeah, I could see your chat right there over the charts. That's pretty cool. Oh, you're saying it looks good. Good. It's good stuff. Anyway, last but not least, what else should we leave you with? Oh, someone asked me about gold. It's trying to find a low here. Remember, this is a good example on how like sectors get hot, sectors get momentum, and then sectors go through a rebuild where you have to know your time frame. Remember when gold broke out after last summer, and then gave you a big move, from 317 to 403, and then created a nice big upper wedge to go parabolic into 509, and then since then, it's just been out of play, grinding lower. So at this particular point, if you're buying gold long term, that's one story. If you're buying it for a trade, see if it holds 373 today. Maybe you could buy versus that spot. So that's 373. Some of my friends who know gold very, very, very well, that have been accumulating physical gold and silver for 20 years, think that we're getting close to, the bottom around here. So where's GLD today? GLD is, it's down 5. Very tricky. This has not been the place to be. Either is really crypto. So anyway, Peter Sullivan's not buying the dip today. Okay. So then don't. Thank you for your input. PayPal. I haven't heard about PayPal since I just used it the other day. Ooh, looking a little bit better, right? Got back above some moving averages. Very, very broken name. Yeah, maybe you could see the 200-day. IGV software. Let's see what software is doing. Software gave you a little bit of a trade, right? Gave you the change of complexion when it took at 86.10. Then it gave you a red dog reversal up here where it opened above 95.30, couldn't hold it. So I would say this is 90.36. This low here is what? This is 92. I'd say if you're in software, you probably don't want to see this break 90.36. That's your out. If you're trying to give these things a little bit of room. Thoughts on IBB? IBB just got, first shot across the bow. If you've been in the bios for a year, remember I was talking about the bios on Spaces and XBI, looked like Friday had your first bout of potency to the downside, whereas if I was huge in the bios, I'd be a little bit more careful. I haven't put up IBB in a long time. First time, it was very extended, but first time you got a little bit of a big bearish candle like this since the breakout. So all it did is break the 8-day. If you're a little, give things more room, give it to the 21-day. But this candle, you don't see a candle like that, so just be a little bit more careful. Look where the XBI came from. Look at the XBI candle, this has had multiple, like, remember how busy we were here? This is when people told me that the XBI should be on the do not touch list because it was consolidating and it was such a fake out until finally broke the downtrend around 87-ish. And then look how many moves it had. So I would be a little careful with the bios now. This someone's like, Red Dog, would you call a top in the bios? I'm not going to call a top. I don't really trade them that often, but I would say a candle like this, if you had too many on and you're too complacent, that should get you a little bit more, together to measure your commitment to whatever it is you're there. I went over that already. Where have you been, Malik? I went over memory. Anyway, you're probably tuning in late. Anyway, it's 6:54. I have to do my 40 charts for the Alpha team. I'm listening to music, drinking my iced coffee, going to manage the trade and try and figure out what I could do up until 11:30. Then I'm off to the Stephen M. Perez golf outing to see all my old friends and celebrate life. Hopefully having a good summer, making some money, and don't sweat the small stuff because when they call your number, the small stuff means nothing. Anyway, thanks for tuning in.